In this video, I'm going to be telling you 10 things that I suggest you look at on your Redcat Kaiju and Kaiju EXT before you ever take off and even drive it the first time. Welcome everyone, my name is Troy, this is Roadside RC. On the channel, you'll find us bashing and crawling and drifting and racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And today we are doing a look at this Redcat Kaiju EXT, and that's honestly the standard Kaiju version. Also, a lot of the same things will apply. What are 10 things I suggest that you look at on this truck before you ever even take it for its first drive? Now, I've been driving this thing now for multiple days, bashing the heck out of it, making some changes, making some modifications to it, finding out some things on it, and I'm here to share them with you. The first item that I suggest is one that honestly I do on almost every vehicle when it comes to me, which is confirm the ESC calibration. It's actually really simple. Controllers on, batteries are plugged in. Hold the set button down, turn it on. You will see the beeps. Make sure the throttle's at neutral. Once for neutral, hold the throttle at full throttle. Hit it again, 2 beeps, hold the throttle at full reverse, hit it again, and now you have, with those final beeps, you are ready to go, and it is made sure that the ESC is calibrated to the throttle throw of your controller. Item number 2 is very similar, and it is checking the steering endpoints on your steering. So a lot of the times you can burn out one of these servos if you have it going too far. It's an easy way to adjust that is via the steering dual rate knob here. The more you crank that towards 100, the more throw that you have on your steering. As an example, if I crank it all the way down here to like a 25, you can see the steering barely moves at all. Out of the box, mine was set at about a 75, and I found that to be just ever so slightly too much. When I had it there, what you would notice is the servo is still trying to move after the wheels have stopped. So right now I have mine set on, I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 60, 65 is what I found I needed it for. You should check for your exact vehicle. Item number 3 for this vehicle is programming your ESC with the variable program options that they have from the factory. What I found is running mode is fine, drag brake force was fine, low voltage cutoff, you can have it at blank. It comes at 3 volts per cell. If I'm honest, I think that's too low. So I bumped mine up to 3.2 volts per cell. Start mode punch at level 5 I felt was too soft. I felt like it had a large delay, like when I was in the air and trying to do air control with the vehicle. So I jumped it all the way up to level 9. Max brake force at 25% is too low for this vehicle. I went to 50% and I was very happy with it at that range. So the only 3 things that I would suggest changing: increase your low voltage cutoff value, increase your punch, increase your max brake force. Now, in order to do this, there's instructions right here that come with the vehicle as to how you can do it. Just going through the beeps and flashes on the ESC and using this program button. Honestly, I did it with an old Hobbywing program card. Now, honestly, this one was set up for one of the Hobbywing crawler ESCs. So that means the numbers and everything on here do not match, but all you had to do was look at when it shows item number 1, that's item number 1. When it shows item number 2, that's item number 2. Works like a champ. So either via the instructions or via an old Hobbywing program card you have laying around, change those 3 things in the settings. The 4th item that I have for you today is one of the most common issues with the truck right now as I'm filming this. So this is early December 2021 as I am filming this, and as this vehicle has been released, one of the weaknesses is the metal in these rear upper turnbuckles. So The truth is, you're going to break them. If it's from the factory, predating what this video is coming out, Redcat is actively working on making upgrades for those. Until those upgrades come out, if you get your hands on one of these, you're probably going to break that turnbuckle really, really fast. It breaks right there at the end of the metal. Really, two very, very simple solutions for this. One, use the front turnbuckles. So buy an extra pair of front turnbuckles. They're literally like $8. Buy an extra set of front turnbuckles, put them on the rear, adjust your camber back because they're slightly shorter. That works very well. Or I can share with you the Lunsford. It's a 4x50 millimeter turnbuckle titanium that will screw right in there. Works like a champ. Item number 5 is all around this body. So really, you know, love it or hate it, it has some very unique styling and design cues. What I have noticed, it's all about the durability of the body. So this upper protector here is good. It seems like that's helping to protect, especially from scuffs and scrapes on the top of the body. But you can see right here, what I'm working on right now is reinforcing the rear of this. Yes, this is ugly. Give me a minute. I'm going to paint it and color it in. It'll be fine once I'm done. But the rear here, where the rear body mounts, is weak, and I've been ripping through these holes, and so I haven't honestly really figured out how it's doing it, because I thought with the rear wing and everything it should be rather protected. But you'll see that I've started to make 2 different modifications to this. First, this body normally stuck down over an inch shorter and came in right behind the shock. So I'm curious if on certain hard landings, if it doesn't flex back and the spring actually pushes up on the body. So I've trimmed off that lower body piece. But then also these pieces right here, as I'm saying, are clearly breaking out, and under certain hard landings, the body will actually pull through the body clips. So I had a couple spare plastic washers that I just cut to fit, and then have used some epoxy to try to epoxy them in to give that strength. What I'm going to be doing next is actually reinforcing on the underside here with some epoxy also to really make that even stronger. And then I'm going to come around some of these edges and use some duct tape in order to strengthen that up. You'll notice on the front side, they actually provided a little bit of a protector reinforcer plastic on the body, but they didn't on the rear. So it'd be really nice if we had something similar to that on the rear. I've had no issues with the front so far. We are halfway through the 10 items that I recommend you looking at on your Redcat Kaiju before you ever even first drive it. Item number 6 is something that I believe is going to fix another issue that a lot of folks are having. So like I mentioned, current common issue is breaking this upper control arm turnbuckle. The other issue that some folks are having is they're actually breaking the diff cup and the drive shaft right here in the rear. My theory is that that's because when the suspension's under full compression, it's actually that drive shaft and diff cup along with this upper control arm that are the limiting factor to the suspension travel. So what I've done is I've changed and I've put, if you can see here, a little piece rubber fuel tubing. So that is 7/16 rubber fuel line. You can get it from any auto parts store. It's just sitting there on the shelf because it's a very common item. What I did is I put 10 millimeters in this side, 15 millimeters in this side. Either one I think will work, because what it does is it allows that rubber with the shock to be your limiter now, instead of the drive shaft and that diff cup. And what you can see is on both sides, and I don't know if you can actually see it here because of the GoPro quality, but both of my drive shafts, where they would touch the diff cups, are actual shiny metal where they have clearly been wearing on those diff cups. That's an issue. That's what's causing those breakages with some hard landings. So we need to give something else to be the limiting factor so that that doesn't happen in these shocks. Item number 7 is something that I also have already done in my vehicle, and I have a video that I can link to it up here, which is I modified the factory battery tray. So most of my batteries would not fit within the standard tray dimensions. I took both foams out in order to increase a little bit more space, still not good enough. And so from the factory, there is a hard plastic divider right here. Turns out it's just enough. It says few millimeters more. When I take it out, I am then able to slide my batteries in all the way up against this receiver tray, and they fit in beautifully here in the rear. If you need even more room, you can actually either take the receiver out of the box and stick it over here and then get rid of the box, or you can move the whole box over here. But make sure your batteries are nicely secured before you ever go anywhere. And for me, in order to do that, I didn't want any kind of angle. I wanted them to be nice and tight in there, so I had to get rid of the foams and that little dividing line in there. Now, item number 8 here is really going to be maybe a little bit more up to your personal preference if you want to do this or not. I found that the truck had a fair amount of body roll and lean while driving, and so I've done 2 things in order to countermeasure that. First, I have put on the sway bars, both front and rear. They're not super stiff sway bars, so they help a little bit, but they are not as stiff as maybe I would like. The other thing I have done is I've moved the shocks into the outermost hole on the bottom and the innermost hole on the front. That way, those shocks help to also counteract that body roll more than if they were standing straight up. I've noticed between those 2 changes on all 4 corners, it has made an improvement in how the car handles. All right, the 9th item, we're almost there. So on the 9th item is going over and checking a lot of the screws and making sure that nothing's loose before you ever take off. All these vehicle manufacturers try to do their best job with quality control, but obviously stuff falls through the cracks. So take your 2mm, go through and just make sure that a lot of the stuff that you see is tight. You know, you don't want to end your first run early because some screws like here on the steering or one of these turnbuckles or something like that is loose. So just go over, do a first check, see if you can detect any wobble and tighten up anything that you see. Last, but honestly really not least, is this truck comes with Dean's plugs. Are you kidding me? A huge 4S, 6S truck that comes with Dean's plugs to run it? That's ridiculous. That's really ridiculous. Redcat, you should know better. And so you got to change the plugs to whatever your standard is. For me, I run XT90 plugs on almost everything. They're super easy to solder. They're cheap to get a hold of, and they pass through a bunch of current. And so really, I mean, if you're in the RC hobby, you should be able to solder. I strongly believe this. And being able to switch everything, both your batteries and your battery connector and your vehicles over to the same kind of connector really helps a lot as you try to switch batteries from vehicle to vehicle and you make these kind of changes. So change to the connector of your choice. All right, that wraps up my suggestions for the top 10 things for you to look at and check on before you ever even drive your Redcat Kaiju for the first time. I really hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please ask down below in the comments. Plus, if you have any suggestions that you think would be good for someone else to learn about, please add those down below too. That way, it could be more than just these 10 items I've come up with. Maybe some of you folks out there have some really good ideas. Let's build this into something that's useful for the community. So put them down below if you have any other suggestions. In the meantime, I'm going to get working on other stuff. I still have a couple of the things I want to do with this truck, and it's time for me to get out and drive it and bash it and have some more fun with it. So I'm going to get out there and start beating on this thing. In the meantime, please come over here, check out some other videos that I've already made, and we will see you in the next one. So thank you and goodbye.